What do all these delicious dishes have in common? They all use the ingredient mince. Beef and lamb mince are both versatile ingredients which can be incorporated into a wide variety of tasty dishes. How can you make it with mince? Let's discover where mince comes from, how it is made, the nutritional benefits, and learn some tips on cooking with mince.
My name is Mike Powley. I farm suckler cows in the Vale of York, quite close to York. The farm here is dedicated to producing beef. What we have is a herd of what's called suckler cows, which are cows that calve every year in the spring here, and we rear the calves right through to what's called finished, so that they're suitable to sell to the butchers and the abattoirs, which then goes on to produce beef mince. All the cattle here are farm assured. That means they are looked after, brought up, fed, housed to a really good standard, which then enables the beef that we produce to carry the red tractor mark as it goes through the food chain and to the consumer. In the red tractor scheme means that the beef that we produce to a higher standard is eligible for the quality standard mark. So really the red tractor is the foundations for the basis of the farm assurance that enables our beef to go into higher value and higher quality markets. The cattle we have on the farm here are bred specifically to produce the beef for the consumer. So what we have here, a very good example stood by me, is a South Devon cow, which are native to this country, from Devon, and we cross those with a Limousin, which is a French breed. Okay. Then we cross our crossbred cows with a terminal sire, which is a British blue. Now the reason for using this breed is it gives us very muscly animals. The farm is what's called a mixed farm, and that gives us a really sustainable farming enterprise. We have the suckler cows here, but we also grow cereals, so it's corn, barley in particular, that we use to feed back to the cattle. So all the feed that we produce on the farm goes back into the cows. Everything we do is orientated around the cows and producing really high quality beef. So in the spring, when the grass grows really fast, there's too much grass for the cows to eat. So what we do is bale it up and make silage of it. So this is preserved grass. And this is what the cows eat during the winter when they're housed, when it's too wet for them to go out into the fields. This field of grass that we're studying now, we planted 2 years ago. We reseed the grass every 4 or 5 years so that we get nice nutritious grass with lots of clover in it. The clover is a legume. It fixes nitrogen out of the air and produces natural fertiliser that the grass can then utilise. So that means that we don't have to use as much artificial fertilisers, and it provides a very natural feed for the cows for the summer. Not only do we look after the grass that the cows eat, but we're also responsible for the wider environment. So we cut the hedges, we look after the trees. Everything you see when you're driving along in the car, the farmers are looking after. The other thing that we do that is very important to us here on the farm and the environment is that the bedding muck that the cows produce during the winter, we then take that out of the sheds and spread it back on the land. And this is a really valuable source of fertiliser for us. So it reduces our reliance on artificial fertilisers, and it also conditions the soil, makes the soil much better living environment to grow crops in. Once the cows are calved in the spring, we turn them out into the pastures, so they spend all summer eating grass. In the autumn, when the weather starts to get colder and wetter, the ground conditions aren't really suitable for the cows. It starts to get too wet and very, very muddy. So what we do is bring them inside into the buildings that you see here, and they'll spend the winter in here where it's nice and dry for them. They get fresh bedding every day, which is straw, and as much food as they need to eat. The group of cows behind me here are about to calve, so we keep them in the yard here so we can keep an eye on them, so that if there's any problems around calving, we can help them. In the autumn and in the spring, when the seasons are changing, the cows have got the options to go in or out of the buildings depending on what they want to do. We look around the cows at least twice a day when they're out in the pastures, and when they're in the yard here during the winter, we see them all the time as we're working around the buildings. We also employ a vet who comes and checks the cows from time to time to make sure they're healthy, and also a nutritionist who helps us design the right diets for them. The silage that the cows are eating at the moment has got quite a lot of moisture in it, but the other thing they do need at all times is water, and a fully grown cow like this will drink between 50 and 60 litres of water a day. So that's available to them at all times in the water troughs, and it's the same water that we drink from the main supply. The ear tags that you see the cows are individual to each animal, so as soon as a calf's born we put the ear tags in, one in each ear, and we then apply for what's called a passport. It gives the cattle's age, where it was born and who its mother was. So there's traceability. We can trace back if we need to, if we want to show where that animal's been through its life and where it originated from. It's the same as you and your mum and dad would have when you went away on holiday. When you buy a packet of Red Tractor mince, there are some numbers on it, and these numbers allow us to trace the origins of that mince back through the supply chain. These are the cows and calves out in the pasture, so these are about a week old. As soon as they're calved, we bring them out here. They'll spend all summer with their mothers, eating grass that we produce for them. And in the autumn, about first week in November, we'll wean the calves, take them away from the cows, because by this stage they're independent, they can feed and fend for themselves, and the cows can then settle over the winter months and prepare themselves for calving again next year. We have sort of 3 different markets we aim for with the beef that we produce here. The majority of the beef goes from here to a processor and then on into supermarkets. We then have a box beef scheme where we have the animals butchered ourselves and we sell it directly to the customer. And these are really high quality animals, so once they've been killed, the carcasses are then exported around the world. We use a lot of technology on the farm today, so we have tractors that are very complex with semi-automatic gearboxes, computer controlled engines, hydraulics that are very powerful and do a lot of the work for us now. We also use IT an awful lot, so a lot of my work is based around the laptop. Major thing we have here on the farm, which you might have seen, are the collars on the cows' necks. Now these collars are there to record the cows' movements, which is another indication as to them being nice and healthy. The best part about being a farmer is being able to work with the animals, working outside, and also the variety. No 2 days are the same, so every day has a different challenge and every day we do different jobs. It's just very rewarding when animals like this are produced on the farm. My favourite beef mince recipe is actually quite simple. It's beef burgers. Ideally, if you can do, cook it on the barbecue, and that way you get a fantastic beef taste.
Hi, my name is Danny Lidgate. I'm a 5th generation retail butcher. So butchering's been in our family for a very long time. We specialise in fresh meat, and one of our best sellers is lamb mince and beef mince. So let's go inside and have a look. Beef and lamb mince is a great way of using the muscles that wouldn't be used for, say, steaks and for roasting joints, which you might have on a Sunday dinner. We can mince them, use the rest of the animal, and they make great products like cottage pie, spaghetti bolognese, beef burgers. When we're making beef mince, it is 100% pure meat. There's no other salt or water or any other ingredients like you might find in other products. So it's just the meat. What we do is we take out any sort of connecting tissues that might hold the muscles together, any bones, any skin, anything like that. So we're using just the muscles, and they're basically trimmed down and put through a mincer where they're mechanically cut.
Danny begins by washing his hands with soap and warm water before drying them. He washes his hands regularly throughout the day. The mincing machine is cleaned thoroughly and assembled before the mince is made. This part is called the worm. It turns and catches pieces of the muscle and pulls them forward. Next, the blades press the meat muscle up against the plate.
And you can see with the plate, it's got lots of holes. As the blade moves and turns, it pushes the meat through the holes, and the size of the hole defines what sort of thickness of mince you're going to get through at the end result. Yeah, normally found in beef mince, we'd use, say, something like this, which are 3 muscles from the shoulder. They can either be used for things like casseroling or stews. Alternatively, they make great mince. There's a little bit of fat on them, but not too much. And as you can see, they're just big pieces of prime meat that's going to go through the mincer and make really good mince.
First, the meat is cut into smaller pieces before being placed on top of the mincer. The pieces of meat are fed through the hole at the top where gravity will pull them down, before being drawn across to a blade to be cut into mince.
The 3 main types of mince you might find when you're buying mince are standard mince, lean mince and extra lean mince. That tends to relate to the fat content or the fat ratio of the meat. So with a standard meat, you might have 20% fat, which is great for things like beef burgers, give you really good natural flavours. The lean mince has 12% fat, and that's great for things like spaghetti bolognese or things you're adding flavours into, or if you're really worried about the fat content, buying an extra lean mince has about 5% fat, might have a little bit less flavour, but you can still enjoy a great meal from eating it. We also sell a lot of steak mince. This doesn't mean that it's got things like fillet steak and sirloin steak in the mince, but it's got cheaper steak cuts like chuck steak, and that's minced through, and that gives us a really good product at the end. My favourite lamb mince recipe would be lamb koftas, ideal for barbecuing, grilling and great in the oven as well.
There are different kinds of mince, including beef, lamb and pork, that are all types of red meat which can make important nutrient contributions to the diet. Looking at a healthy, varied diet, it usually includes moderate amounts of lean meat, together with plenty of starchy carbohydrates, including whole grain foods, plenty of fruit and vegetables, together with moderate amounts of milk and dairy foods. Try to choose lean and extra lean types of mince to keep the fat content down. Within the context of a healthy, varied diet, lean red meat contributes protein, long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, and micronutrients such as iron, zinc, selenium, vitamin D, vitamin B3 and vitamin B12. Meat and meat products provide protein of high biological value, which give us all the essential amino acids, which are building blocks of protein that the body needs. It also provides us with important micronutrients, which are essential for good health, such as iron and zinc. Iron is important as an oxygen carrier in blood and myoglobin in muscle. It is also required for many metabolic processes. Zinc is essential for self-division, growth and repair, and is also necessary for normal reproductive development, a healthy immune system and wound healing. Some of these nutrients provided by meat are more bioavailable in meat than alternative food sources, and some of these are being identified by SACN, which stands for the Scientific Advisory Committee for Nutrition, as being in short supply in the diets of certain sections of the population. Red meats provide around 10% of iron and 30% of zinc in the British diet. Government surveys have shown that iron and zinc intakes are low amongst teenage girls. The Department of Health is advising people who eat more than 90 grams of cooked weight of red and processed meat to cut down to 70 grams a day, which is around 500 grams a week. But most of the people in the UK are actually eating lower than the recommended amount. My favourite mince recipe is dumplings made with beef mince and chopped vegetables, and when cooked in a nice broth, make a very lovely hearty dinner.
Beef and lamb mince are both popular ingredients for cooking and can be purchased from different places. These can be bought fresh or frozen from farm shops, butchers and supermarkets. They can also be purchased in chilled, frozen or canned products already cooked. We can look at the labels to learn more about the nutritional quality of these products.
Mince is extremely versatile, and you can cook a variety of recipes using beef or lamb mince. Lots of different recipes come from around the world using beef or lamb mince. Mince is great for everyday cookery. You can just produce a substantial and healthy meal with just a few ingredients, or you can actually really go to town and add a variety of spices and unusual or everyday vegetables to make a fantastic meal that you can actually entertain with. So it is a very good base to add additional ingredients to produce a fantastic dish. If you buy your beef or lamb mince from a supermarket, which has already been vacuum packed and sealed, all you need to do is just adhere to the use by dates on the packaging. Use by dates are given to foods such as mince that can go off quickly. That basically means that it's very perishable. And it's really important to stick to the use by dates and to cook and eat mince within these dates. Eating mince after the use by date can mean that dangerous bacteria can possibly grow and cause potential food poisoning. And you put it straight in your fridge, towards the bottom of the fridge. You can actually freeze it in the original packaging. If you get your mince from a butcher, which is not in a vacuum packed seal that you would get from a supermarket. You can store it in the fridge, but you have to use within 3 days, 2 to 3 days. So you've got the choice of whether or not you want to store the raw mince in freezer bags, plastic freezer bags, or whether you want to store it in a plastic poly box. It's up to you depending on how much space you have, but the most important thing is to label whatever you freeze with the date and the type of mince that you're using, and freeze for up to 3 months. If you go over that date, you have to make sure that your mince hasn't got any freezer burn. That will mean that the actual mince is starting to break down and the eating quality won't be as good. Batch cooking is when you have a large amount of beef or lamb mince. It could be a tomato-based bolognese mixture or something like that. You can use the batch that you've cooked to make a variety of different meals like shepherd's pie or spaghetti bolognese or lasagna. And with batch cooking, you can actually cook it and then divide them up and then freeze it and take them out, defrost and use as you will.
It is important to know when mince is cooked. When raw mince is added to a frying pan, the meat is red in colour. Once the mince begins to cook, the colour gradually changes from red to brown. Cooked mince will be completely brown in colour and the meat juices will run clear. When preparing and cooking mince, it is important to prevent cross-contamination or the transfer of bacteria. Denise explains how we can do this.
Well, firstly, you have to remember to make sure that your hands are clean. Also, to remember that your work surfaces and any utensils that you use are clean. To prevent cross-contamination, I would suggest that you use separate chopping boards, a red one for raw meat and a white one for other ingredients, and make sure that once you've prepared your raw meat, to wash your knives before you actually go on to prepare your other ingredients. Mince is a really versatile ingredient, basically because it cooks very quickly and you can actually produce a meal in a short space of time. It's also very good because you tend to dry fry mince. That means that you actually cook the mince in a hot non-stick pan without any oil, and it will generate its own moisture and cook without the use of any oil or fat. There are some other cooking methods that work really well with mince. For example, grilling it's another quick and direct form of heat for cooking mince, and also, if the weather permits, barbecuing. For cooked mince, obviously when you cook your mince you have to make sure that it's cooled very quickly, and you can either store it in plastic freezer bags or in a poly box. Again, label and date and use within the given time period, but do make sure that you defrost thoroughly in the fridge overnight and reheat thoroughly until it's piping hot. To prevent food waste, it's really important to be able to use your leftovers effectively. Depending on what leftovers you have, for example, if you have leftover spaghetti bolognese sauce, it might be an idea to actually add some red kidney beans and a spot of chilli sauce or something and make it into a completely different dish. That way you can actually reduce the amount of food waste that you have. My favourite recipe is lamb moussaka, and with my added twist of freshly chopped mint, I think that's a winner for me.
Let's look at one young person's favourite mince recipe. Each year, young people 11 to 16 years of age have the opportunity to send in their favourite mince recipe with a twist and enter the Make It With Mince challenge. Charlotte Heath impressed the judges and became the Midlands and National winner of the Make It With Mince Challenge 2011. She entered the challenge with her recipe lamb mince and date patty pan tagine. Charlotte recommends garnishing the dish with torn fresh parsley and flaked almonds before serving. Mince, when consumed as part of a healthy varied diet, provides important nutrients for the body. Finally, don't forget it can be incorporated into a wide variety of tasty dishes. What will your favourite mince recipe be?